Open the podcast bay door as hell.
Hello everyone, and welcome to episode 64 of Welcome to Geektown. I'm your host, Kurt Onstead. I've been a proud geek all my life, being into role-playing games, board games, sci-fi, fantasy, and especially superheroes and comics. And I want to help others join me in those pursuits. But I've found that sometimes people can get overwhelmed or feel left out because they don't already have what some consider the requisite knowledge to be considered a fan. And that's where Welcome to Geektown comes in. Here you can ask your questions without feeling like a gatekeeper is calling you out for not yet being fully versed in every aspect of your new interest. In case you've missed it, I wanted to let everyone know that I'm slowly converting the past episodes of Welcome to Geektown into YouTube videos, with images and videos added where appropriate. Just go to YouTube and search Welcome to Geektown. And be sure to like, comment, and subscribe so I know that you're interested in seeing more. Regular listener and one of our more frequent question writers, Joel L., emailed me this week's inquiry. He said, quote, "So I was reading the novel Spider-Man: The Darkest Hours and was surprised that Peter Parker was a part-time high school science teacher. That's one I was totally unaware of, and it came off the heels of me playing the Spider-Man PS4 game in which he was a scientist working for Otto Octavius, pre-Exosuit. So it got me thinking, what other jobs have Peter, and maybe other superhero alter egos, had that haven't been featured on the big screen?" That's a fun question, Joel. Let's work our way through the years on Spider-Man and go through all his various career pursuits. We may bring this back from time to time for other superheroes, so we'll call this feature Heroes on the Clock. At the very beginning, Peter had no day job, as he was a high school student and had no need to work. In addition to being portrayed this way in Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spider-Man's first appearance, this is also how Peter starts out in most of the media adaptations we've seen, including all three of the different film series and the majority of the cartoons as well. But with the death of Uncle Ben, Peter searches out ways to help his Aunt May make ends meet. Peter's first idea was to get a job with the Fantastic Four, which happened in Amazing Spider-Man number 1. This obviously did not come to pass, at least not then. He later does join the team on a couple of different occasions, as the FF inform him that they are a non-profit and do not pay any salaries to the team. It's an issue later that Peter finds his first and most consistent job. Upon hearing his classmates discuss how much a picture of the Vulture would be worth, Peter decides to capture some photos of the supervillain. Using his uncle's miniature camera, the book came out in 1963, so the miniature camera is about the same size as 3 iPhones stacked on top of one another. He lucks into finding Vulture and follows him around taking pictures. When Vulture notices him and attacks, Peter is able to hide the camera away so that no one can connect Spidey to the photographer. He sells this photo, and basically every subsequent photo taken, to J. Jonah Jameson, publisher of Now Magazine, a celebrity tabloid, and The Daily Bugle, one of New York's newspapers in the Marvel Universe. Over the years, Spider-Man's photography rig has gotten more and more sophisticated. What started as a miniature camera attached to his belt has become a remote camera that is wirelessly linked to a tracker in the suit, allowing the camera to automatically get the best shots available when Spider-Man is in frame. When Peter originally sold his pictures to Jameson, he insisted on not wanting to be named in the paper as the photographer, and was credited simply as a, quote, Now Magazine staff photographer, end quote. Which isn't technically true, as Peter was a freelance photographer at first and was not on staff for quite some time. This conceit was slowly chipped away, although we never see a single moment where Peter changes his mind about credit. Peter eventually told all his friends and family about his job, and by issue 60 of Amazing Spider-Man, Peter is credited by name on the front page of the Bugle. And in issue 91, it appears to be public knowledge that Peter Parker is the photographer who is good at getting pictures of Spider-Man. These were the earliest examples I could find in a quick read-through of the first 100 issues or so. If anyone can find an earlier instance of either of these, I'd be happy to give an update in a future episode. Peter continues his part-time work as a freelance photographer after graduating high school in issue number 28 of his series, and into his time at college, first as an undergraduate, finally graduating with a bachelor's in issue number 185, then continuing his postgraduate studies, studying either biochemistry or biophysics. It changes from issue to issue. He shows aptitude in many different facets of science during these studies. Like most people in comics who are good at science, he's somehow an expert with any science, from electronics to chemistry to biology to physics. However, he eventually had to drop out of his graduate studies due to money issues, using his tuition money to help out his then-girlfriend, the Black Cat. His photography career is Peter's main source of income for the great majority of his published run. In issue number 304, we even have a book published by the Daily Bugle titled Webs, Spider-Man in Action, that featured many of Peter's photos. Unfortunately, the contract Peter signed with the Bugle for photo rights appears to have been greatly in the Bugle's favor, as Peter makes almost no money himself from this publication, all the profits going to the newspaper that originally published the photos. But let's move on to some of Peter's other jobs. During the mid-80s, Spider-Man actually took on some freelance bounty hunter and protection jobs from the mercenary named Silver Sable. He was paid in cash for these assignments so as not to risk his secret identity, and made sure that he was on the right side of morality, even if he was on the wrong side of the law to assuage his conscience. For a while, when Peter married Mary Jane, money issues became a thing of the past, as MJ was a famous model and actress. However, given the old Parker look, her career came crashing down as well, and the two were forced to move back in with Aunt May for a time, while Peter once again resumed his photography work. It wasn't until the year 2001 that Peter moved away from the newspaper business and took on a full-time job as a teacher. Writer J. Michael Straczynski moved Peter into his new position as part of a reinvention of the wall crawler. This is obviously where Jim Butcher came up with the idea for having Peter be a part-time teacher in the book that Joel read, as that was released in 2006. However, in the main Spider-Man titles, this was a short-lived career. Just a couple of years later, Spider-Man became part of the New Avengers, and Peter became close friends with Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. Tony took Peter under his wing, and Peter became a sort of executive assistant to Tony for a time. All of this built up to the Civil War storyline, during which Peter revealed his secret identity to the world, making any sort of day job pretty much an impossibility, especially after Peter switched to the anti-registration side and went underground, along with MJ and Aunt May. This all leads into the much maligned story titled One More Day, in which Peter agrees to a deal with Mephisto, one of many devil analogs in the Marvel Universe, to sacrifice his marriage to save a dying Aunt May, and also ends up with Peter's identity secret once more. The new status quo is revealed in the Brand New Day story, where Peter is now once again living with Aunt May due to money trouble, and decides to return to selling photographs of himself in action as Spider-Man. When writer Dan Slott took over as the sole writer on Amazing Spider-Man, he also decided to change Peter's career trajectory. Slott introduced Horizon Labs, an R&D firm working at the cutting edge of science. Peter impresses owner Max Modell and gets a job working at the company after just one meeting, and uses his science know-how, as well as the company resources, to create new inventions that can help the world, as well as himself in his crime-fighting persona, including stealth armor and a special new metal called Reverbium. But we haven't reached the most interesting career shift for Peter, or at least Peter's body. In issue 700 of Amazing Spider-Man, longtime foe Dr. Octopus, whose body was deteriorating from all his lost fights with the Wallcrawler and other heroes, was able to defeat Spider-Man and do a body switch with him, with Peter Parker's mind dying inside Octavius's body and Otto taking over as the new Spider-Man. Enough of Peter's memories were absorbed that Doc Ock decided to himself become a hero, but his ego convinced him that he would be a better, or superior, Spider-Man. In Peter's body, Octavius went back to Empire State University and, using some of his own old unpublished work, finished Peter's doctorate. He was then able to get enough funds to start his own company, called Parker Industries, which created many different new technologies, including a webware telephone with lots of goodies built in that became the latest high-tech fad in the Marvel Universe. While CEO of Parker Industries, it was revealed that Spider-Man and Peter Parker worked together, and Spider-Man became a bodyguard to Peter/Octavius, in the same way that Iron Man was for Tony Stark in the first few decades of the Iron Man books, a conceit later mocked in the MCU. Similar to his work with Horizon Labs, many of the inventions created at Parker Industries went straight into Spider-Man's suit to assist him in becoming the superior Spider-Man. Once again, though, this new status quo could not last. Peter was eventually able to reassert himself, as his personality had merely been copied over to Doc Ock's dying body, and the original was still inside Peter, albeit buried and dormant for quite some time. Shortly after returning to himself, Peter was forced to sacrifice all of the webware devices on the planet in order to stop the carrion virus created by the Jackal from spreading. This quickly bankrupts the company, and Peter returns to the Daily Bugle, not as a photographer, but as a science reporter/consultant. Unfortunately, the Parker luck continues to strike, and soon thereafter it comes to light that Peter's doctorate thesis used Otto Octavius's unpublished research, because at the time, he was Otto. And so, accused of plagiarism, Peter's doctorate is taken away. Since this development, the Spider-Man titles have been concentrating more on Peter in the suit than out of it. However, Professor Kirk Connors, who was at one point the Lizard, but currently has it pretty much under control, has invited Peter to participate in his class at Empire State University, which may eventually allow Peter to once again be Dr. Peter Parker. What Peter is actually doing for money is a little up in the air right now, but if he's anything like many of us at the moment, it's possible he's living on unemployment. I hope they continue to pursue his work in science, as he's proven himself a capable inventor from the very start, creating his web shooters, all the way to the present, and it doesn't feel like they've explored all of the story possibilities that a career like this could present. So that pretty much covers it, Joel. As you heard, it's pretty much only in the last 20 years that Marvel has really branched out in terms of Peter Parker's jobs, but they crammed quite a bit into there. This only covers the mainstream Marvel universe. In movies, games, novels, and other adaptations, they usually stick with one of these, but there are the occasional rare exception, i.e. Spider-Man pizza delivery guy. I hope you enjoyed that overview of his working life, and that you may have learned a thing or two along the way. If this inspired any new questions, I'd be glad to hear them. Or if you'd like to leave a note on the show in general, I'd love to receive those as well. You can send all questions and comments to me via email at welcometogeektown, all spelled out, @gmail.com. Or you can go to welcome to, the number 2 in this case, geektown.com and click Submit a Question if you'd prefer to remain anonymous. Other contact options include facebook.com/welcometogeektown or Twitter @geektownpodcast. Also, if you'd like to support the show directly, come join the Patreon at patreon.com/welcometogeektown for just $1 per month to get access to full scripts of the shows, outtakes, and a monthly shoutout. You can also help the show grow by subscribing and giving a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts to join the Geektown City Council, which helps other people find the show, so we can all tell them, welcome to Geektown. Population, us. Welcome to Geektown is written, narrated, edited, and produced by me, Kurt Onstead. Theme music is by Aaron Lovitz, logo art by Archie Santana. All other sound clips are the copyrighted material of their respective owners, and no infringement is intended, falling under fair use.